Hi everyone. It's a Sunday and I'm really happy to be putting together this video for everybody. I've had some really interesting people contact me lately, and people who are perhaps a little more advanced on their paths. And so doing what I do best, I'm going to respond to the energies coming in, especially just after this new moon in Aquarius. I'm sure you all felt that, as anybody connected to the cycles does. It was a real nice opening, I think, into 2023. And I hope you all had time to visualize what it is that we're calling in, that you're calling in for 2023. And so the energies have just been really, really interesting. And I'm very grateful, by the way, for all the people that did reach out and have been sharing their projects with me, their journey. I feel very grateful because every time two people come together, it's alchemy, right? Just as anything, any two ingredients that we put together, basically everything is alchemy. And two people come together, and they merge their energies. And in that merging, the third is created. And then they separate again, and that third becomes incorporated and integrated into who we are. So we are simply all a reflection of each other. And we try to, grow past different barriers within ourselves by and break through these barriers by looking at ourselves in the mirror. And so the energies coming through are really asking us to be compassionate about other people's processes, right? As they break through those barriers. There's no need to go out of our way and attempt at forcing someone into an awakening or realization, because that itself is regressive to the process of awakening. And so we come to these layers. I'm probably going to turn this off because this is trap and base, which I'm really digging these days. All kinds of different trap and base. And so we have different paths, right? And we're not all working on the same path. Some people are truly seeking to master themselves, and other people have even mastered themselves and now are working on other things. And then you have people who are still not aware that they seek to master themselves, perhaps caught in suffering. All of these are experiences that we can have here that are valid and that are part of our process. They are part of our enlightenment process. And so we have to choose at one point what exactly it is we are doing here. And sometimes that takes time as we unravel different layers of ourselves. And so I'm going to get into perhaps the clashes between the non-dual, so the non-duality communities, and the more esoteric communities, because I think they are not in battle. They are not in battle. They are not actually opposing each other. They are two separate forces working in parallel alongside each other towards the same things. And I think that this could maybe certainly relieve a little bit of confusion that people have, and especially regarding seeking to change others, right? So we're all going to encounter the trickster energy on our paths of awakening, and ultimately we are always and can only be tricking ourselves. And so we constantly are returned to ourselves as this energy moves through us and moves through the collective, and just allows us to refine and cultivate our path. So in non-duality, the goal is to obtain enlightenment through coming into the realization of absolute truth. And the pathway to get there is to move through all the subjective interpretations of reality that create suffering, and to be able to move beyond all these layers and conditioning to come to that place of absolute truth, which is our infinite selves, and essentially the concept that all is one. And so there are some really important teachers. I'll share one with you today who has walked this path and who is able to give us a lot of information and knowledge about how to get there. Humans are often very, very complex, and truths are very simple. So Grandmaster Wolf is he's not a very simple man, but in the way he conveys complexity, he can do it with great simplicity. And so I'm going to share my screen and share with you this wonderful individual who I have, through alchemy, been working with. And every single person has a medicine to offer, and every single person is a teacher and a student. And so coming into contact with his energy has been very rewarding, and has created an experience of the third within myself. Anyway, so this is he has a YouTube channel, and he also has a website. So we've heard a lot about Zen masters and mystics. He's a mystic, by the way, and he studied in different monasteries, and he also is a kung fu master. And we have known throughout history some of these people that have mastered the mind, and so essentially they master mentalism, and they're able to essentially control matter, so wielding mind over matter. And he's one of these people. He is legit. We see a lot of people attempting to mimic some of the things that he can do, such as telekinesis, pyrokinesis, moving things with his mind, working like chi on water. This one's really interesting. And so let me just play maybe one of them, just to give you an idea and to open up your mind to what it is that he is capable of doing. Let me see. So he's focusing his attention on the point of the thermometer, and we can see it going up. He releases his energy. It begins to go back down. He has been able to gain control of his mind to the point where he can manipulate the material world. he's going to show us the one that he exploded by mistake. He has a few students working with him. Keep your eyes at the bubble bottom. Okay, so there are many examples that he goes through where he's moving glasses. You know, he's manipulating all sorts of things, magnets. He's doing the side wheel, which is a fun one to start with. And he's also, you know, lighting things on fire with his chi. And so the reason why I'm sharing his work right now is basically to show people that, yes, you know, studying and practicing different modalities of non-duality, or, you know, Buddhism, Taoism, can lead you to a place where you are ultimately the observer of this reality at all times. And so knowing that this is possible definitely opens the doorway for people to begin with having the belief, because ultimately these practices come from removing all beliefs from the subjective mind to encounter the absolute truth. But by beginning with the belief that these things are possible, they do open up doorways within the mind that allow us to tap into larger spaces of consciousness. So when students encounter these teachings and perhaps begin to practice them and reach different levels, attain certain levels of enlightenment, and there are definitely many levels, and even Grandmaster Wolf is still a student as much as he is a teacher. We can begin to become very preoccupied with the nocebo effect happening in the world. And so we have the placebo effect and we have the nocebo effect. The placebo effect is me giving you a pill and telling you it's going to heal you, or me telling you I'm going to operate on you and slicing you open, doing absolutely nothing, sewing you back up, and then you healing because the belief was strong enough within you to believe in the power of healing, believe in your power of healing yourself. And so that's the placebo. And the nocebo effect is when someone tells you, for example, a doctor might say, I've diagnosed you with a deadly illness and you will only have a few months to live. So the nocebo effect is that person taking in that belief and then turning it into a reality. So we have the placebo and then we have the nocebo. Both are coming from the same place, belief, and both have the power to, and you know, they're both working from power of belief. One to heal, to cure, to enlighten, and then the other to destroy, bring into entropy, and potentially kill someone. So a lot of people on their path to enlightenment come to these different levels and become very concerned about the nocebo effect happening in the world. I myself. And then you encounter different people and you look at what they're producing through the subconscious and potentially subconscious or subjective layers within themselves. And as they share them with the world, we seek to control that which they're sharing because we fear of the nocebo effect that it's going to have on other people. So this is why there were many people battling the media regarding this, you know, with everything that happened after 2020. The psychosomatic effects of hearing all of the news, right? All of the things that were repeated to us in the stores, all of the things that were on repeat on the radio, like basically coming in from everywhere, was such a powerful force that a lot of people simply passed away from the psychosomatic effects of ingesting those beliefs. So we are dealing with real forces, and this is one part of it. And so there is another stage in our evolution towards enlightenment, where we begin to understand that people need to come into power in their own time. And it is not possible to basically change someone's mind out of a belief that is naturally occurring within them because of their soul path and what they're here to learn, versus a belief that someone has within them because someone convinced them of it. And so many people on a subconscious level, perhaps even choosing to depart. And we have to rest assured that everyone is on their individual path and everyone is making a choice from a higher place. Okay. And then we also have to, with this awareness, understand that if we're at a certain level of awakening, a certain level of enlightenment, it is also our duty to help awaken people. Because what we do not bring light to, we are essentially complicit in. And so you have this battle in the spiritual community between, you know, the esoteric and the non-duality communities. One saying, in order to take responsibility and create the world we want to see, we have to bring people towards the absolute truth and help them transcend the different layers of consciousness, the different layers of subconscious beliefs, so their conscious belief systems, so that they can remove all the conditioning that would allow them to be controlled by an external environment to believe certain things. And so these people are within their temples, are teaching how to transcend these layers within self through meditation, through contemplation, through various practices, and to master thyself. And that is their path, and that is one path of many. So we have to always understand that at the absolute truth of things, we're always working from the same place, from the same origin point, and we've fragmented into many different pieces of that mirror. And each mirror, each fragment of that mirror is going to be going about this process in their individual practice, in their individual way. And there's no way that is wrong, but we do have a responsibility to ensure that we get ourselves there, and that we have to have compassion of the understanding that in order to get ourselves there, we have to push different layers of conditioning to the forefront within ourselves to see them clearly in order to transcend them. So whenever we see things arise in the world, it is because the poison is being removed. So each time we see something surface within the self, triggers or whatnot, those layers are being removed. So if it triggers something in someone else, then we turn the mirror back onto the self in order to do the internal work, in order to transcend that layer within ourselves. And then by everyone doing this, we begin to reflect to each other a higher and higher state of awareness, where we can come to these, essentially the no mind, but we even transcend the no mind. Okay, so going back to what's the energy that's present right now, doing the work that I do as a medicine woman is to discuss this fear of nocebo effect that the non-duality community has. So this is also the 5D community in the New Age culture. And it can be seen in the fear of looking at anything that's not positive, when essentially what we're discussing right now is that when things come to the surface, the negatives come to the surface and we witness them, they can be released. So we're releasing the fear of the nocebo effect. And as we do that, we are continuing to climb higher and higher towards these absolute truths. There are some people that are working from different esoteric teachings who perhaps in previous lives have already come to enlightenment and are now here working to help bring these truths to the surface. So every time we dig and then we bring these truths to the surface, we are healing the roots of the tree, which cause those imbalances to happen. So I'm going to jump around a little bit, but I'm going to try to touch on everything that everybody, all the energies through this alchemy that is happening. And so one of the challenges that we're going to have is to be able to accept the ego as something positive in the reality field here. If we're very much entrenched in our no mind teachings and in the process of doing that work. So often, you know, people with really strong, healthy egos are deemed as negative. And so we have to look at, okay, there's the nocebo effect and there's the placebo effect, which are playing out. And we have a certain amount of control over our level of suffering in the world. We have a certain amount of control over what beliefs we are holding on to, right? What false egos we're holding on to. And once we can make it past a certain level, we can literally transcend a lot of the suffering. But what I think we need to be discussing right now at this time, 2023, January, I think it's 20th, January 22nd, is that even once we attain that absolute truth within ourselves and we're able to manipulate matter and move it through the will force, that can only be attained by ascending all these different layers within ourselves. We're still going to be confronted with external forces that we cannot control. So a lot of the non-duality community, there's many different factions, but many of the factions believe that all is Maya, and that what we are essentially believing, every thought that we have, every belief that we have, our interpretation of reality is what creates reality. And from my experience, that is a limited, with no disrespect, that is a limited level of enlightenment, because even as Grandmaster Wolf, and if you're big into non-duality and you listen to his teachings, you'll see that he resonates with the general principles of what that is. But even someone like himself is not able to, for example, spending 18 years in a monastery and practicing the mastery of the self did not prevent the monastery from being ransacked and from these, these opposing forces killing 9 of the monks, right? So no matter how much they mastered themselves, they could not prevent that from happening. So there are things that are outside of our will, that external forces that we are still having to battle in the world. And even if you've maintained the integrity of your electromagnetic field and you've come to a point where very little can affect you, you are still going to be confronted with these greater and greater challenges. Because even if we're practicing non-duality, we still live in a world of duality. And so they came to a certain level of mastery, and then their monastery gets ransacked. 9 monks, unfortunately, were killed. And actually, Grandmaster Wolf was brought and tortured for 1 full week. So even though he reached this level of no mind, of understanding of absolute truth, and it's not even understanding, it's a simple awareness of being in absolute truth, he was still not able to prevent his perpetrators from breaking all his fingers, for example, or for him, having 2 bullet wounds and being them trying to hang him. I'm laughing, but it's not funny. What I'm laughing about is that the idea that we're going to, I think the part of non-duality that works against us is a belief that once we reach the absolute truth, we will no longer have external forces in this material plane to push against us or to harm us, right? And so this is where we need to come together between these 2 communities and understand that there are people such as Grandmaster Wolf. Grandmaster Wolf himself is working from the light. And so what I mean by that is he is not using his energy to manipulate people in a nefarious way. But there are other people who have mastered their energy, mastered mentalism, can alter matter, and are working for nefarious purposes. Okay, so you have these 2 completely different groups, and they're the masters, right? And then you have everybody else in between, and then you have people who are working towards awareness, who have almost attained mastery, and then the majority of people who are still unconscious, who are simply not even aware of their subjective thoughts, right? So bridging past their own belief systems is still not something that they're even attempting to do. So once you come to this realization and this understanding, you understand that even if you're a master and you've mastered matter, you've mastered your electromagnetic field, there are still going to be external forces that are working with different intentions, okay, in this reality. So there was a concern with the last video that I put out about frequencies and cell phones, basically all electromagnetic energy, and how it can interfere with our own electromagnetic fields. And a few opinions coming in from the non-duality community about how that could play a negative role. That's a belief system that could play a negative role in causing harm to people, because they will watch that video and then they will begin to focus on the negative effects of certain microwaves, certain different hertz frequencies that are harming them, that they potentially weren't aware of before. And then what they focus on expands, and then it will harm them more. So there's truth to that whatever we focus on is expanding. And so this is why we want to return to practices such as non-duality to transcend these different layers. But we also have to understand that in order to heal the roots of people who are working, masters who are working within a whole different mindset of intention, also have harnessed different energies in the way that they want, right? And that could potentially be harming us. So by being aware of the distinction between all these different frequencies, how they're affecting us, with every level of awakening, the awareness creates more chaos as we transcend the belief and as we filter through building up, increasing our mastery, increasing our electromagnetic field capacities while mitigating the external, right? So the more that we focus on self-mastery, the stronger electromagnetic fields become, and the more we can fend off anything coming in externally, whether that is specific people who have done a certain amount of mastery who seek to manipulate you, or whether it's institutions that have harnessed different energies for themselves and are using different knowledge and information, or whatever. So there's a certain level of mastery that we can attain where a lot of these lower frequencies aren't able to penetrate us, okay? But there's also an increase in sensitivity as we gain these heightened states of awareness and we begin working with like in Kung Fu mastery, we're working with the slight, it's like time slows down and we're working the time dilation, and it's increasing our sensitivity to everything. Just as when we pay attention to the electromagnetic fields around us and all these frequencies moving around us, as we pay attention to them, we sensitize ourselves to them. So as we step into mastery with ourselves and we pay attention to the details of the movement and the energy flowing through us, we are becoming sensitive to the energies within the self. So we actually simultaneously expose ourselves to more vulnerability. So that's why a lot of these Zen masters, they have gone to monasteries. They live in isolated areas. They live in solitude. A lot of them are hermits. A lot of them don't interact with a lot of people. And they live in monasteries precisely because as we increase and master our internal capacities to tap into these higher layers and reach these absolute truths, we are also becoming more sensitive to every little movement within ourselves energetically. So there's only, we can only go so far in mastering our own electromagnetic fields while living in a city, for example. This is why I recommend people move out of cities. I've made this recommendation. If you are on this path, you do not want to stay in a city. Very few will survive awakening on this level and staying in an environment that where they're being attacked by all these electromagnetic fields that are in opposition to them opening up and connecting with the natural grid, connecting with the natural frequencies, and connecting with these small little movements within themselves. So does this mean everybody has to run off and go hide? No, but there's only a certain level that I recommend. You only want to open up to a certain extent and develop your mastery in certain environments. So it's up to you to decide. So as we continue to bring forth awareness about different things that are happening within society that do not honor the integrity of the electromagnetic field of all living creatures and inanimate objects. As soon as we, we basically compromise that integrity of any living thing, we are compromising the integrity of the whole. So as we increase the awareness of, for example, different animals being compromised, humans being compromised, like the integrity of the electromagnetic field, right? If we take the nourishment out of food, and then we take that food and we feed it to animals or we feed it to humans, it is then going to have an effect on the human, and it's going to compromise the human. And slowly over time, the human will try and adapt, but they won't be able to reach different levels of attainment that they would have been able to reach had the integrity of that electromagnetic field of the vegetable not been compromised. So a lot of the compromising of the natural world is happening due to greed, profit, like different corporations choosing profit over people. And a lot of it has to do with ignorance. So it's not all dark, evil, nefarious people. But yes, there are people who know better and don't do better. And then there are people who really don't know better and who are partaking in this machine that's turning. So their position in a job in a corporation and feeding their energy into those corporations. So we need to bring about awareness to heal the roots, to return the integrity of everything within this natural environment to a place where it's healthiest, so that we can also come into our healthiest. So there's nothing opposing, the esoteric teachings teach us to dig and to find out the truth behind the material plane, how things were layered up, the truth behind, different forms of slavery happening in the world, the truth behind how potentially pharmaceutical companies, keep people roped in when they have better solutions simply to profit off of them, right? And so these communities, you can call it, there's some people that are truthers, there's different branches of the esoteric community, but essentially it's people that seek to uncover what is unseen and bring it forward. And so the people who are working more from the non-duality and the esoteric, like, there are no contradictions. Both paths are leading towards the same place. Both paths want the same thing, and both paths are actually sharing the same goal. It's just one is in the process of mastering internally the human technology, and the other has either already mastered the human technology or is in the process of mastering their human technology. Because each time we do this work on an esoteric level, we are also doing the work of knowing thyself and the work of confronting our internal belief systems and confronting our conditioning. So there is a certain amount that is simply 80% perhaps of it that is simply conditioning that we can actually transcend through the self-mastery using our human technology. But then there's a 20%, which is, for example, the monastery being invaded, and that 20% is real. So they come in and, so there are different experiences that go beyond our capacity to control through the microcosm of our mastery of our human technology. And that 20% is what the esoteric community is attempting to eradicate, and not through war, through truth, through clarity of truth, through awareness. And the more people gain awareness, yes, there is a part of the nocebo effect where they're going to have to transcend different things and increase they're increase their electromagnetic field so that they're less vulnerable to certain beliefs. But then there's also the natural environment, which they will only be able to reach a certain amount of control unless they go off to a monastery or unless they move to an area that is, more nature-based, less electricity, less frequencies from these cell towers, all these other factors. Eating better, right? Like the toxins within the food. These are all the 20% of things that are simply out of our control. If you've mastered yourself to a certain degree, yes, you can transcend illnesses. You might take in a certain amount of toxins from your environment, and then through meditation, you will come into a place where you can master healing yourself of those ailments. But the more you have coming in at you, no matter how much mastery you reach, the more difficult it's going to be to maintain that level of power within yourself. So there's always kind of this fine balance being played out in the world. And as we can see right now, the world is not in a good state, right? And there are a lot of things that we need to fix in the world, that we need to heal, that aren't subjective based, right? That are facts happening out in the world. If someone dies, they died. That's not a subjective interpretation. That is also the truth of what's happening in this reality. So we have to understand these two, and I encourage everybody to think on this. And like I said, I'm very grateful for the people that I've been in contact with, because we are busting through some really high level layers regarding human technology, regarding where we're going with this stuff, and also coming to greater synthesis, less opposition within our very own communities, between the esoteric community and the non-dualistic, the non-duality communities, the Zen communities, the Taoist communities, right? Because these two, when they come together and that force comes together, like, I just got shivers. Like, that is where we want to go, because those two coming together, we are really going to be able to push ourselves up into this higher plane where we're healing the roots for those that are, that are still kind of like coming into different levels of awareness, protecting them, right? And then allowing ourselves to create a better environment for all of those to come, right? For the children to come and leave this world a better place than when we found it. So yes, we need the mastery of the self, but then we also need to master what is happening in our environment, bring that awareness forward. And every time we do that, we are creating a leap and a bridge forward for other people to come to those realizations, to take better actions in their lives, better decisions about what they eat, where they live, what they do, who they interact with, and then continue to do the work. And it just keeps on getting passed on and passed on. And with this nice quote that I wrote down, the Huayan school of Buddhism has been fond of this image, mentioned many times in its literature, because it symbolizes a cosmos in which there is an infinitely repeated interrelationship among all the members of the cosmos. This relationship is said to be one of simultaneous mutual identity and mutual intercausality. And this is the image of the net and how everybody is holding and pulling on one of the strings, right? And we're all a piece of that mirror of the totality. And so we're all playing our roles, and we all have our unique medicine to share. We are all attempting at mastering our human technology, and we are all essentially working on different levels. So if your intentions are grounded in bringing about the highest outcome for the most amount of people, basically staying in heart consciousness and heart awareness for humanity, then you are obviously working on the same side that I am. And on the side that I'm working on, there are many different people. So we're having to understand that all of these different people are going to be coming about it from very different schools of thought, but that we have to stay open, and we can feel it in the heart, right? And even the people, so all the people that are ignorant on the other side, obviously, sending them love and not force awakening anyone, simply, being in that loving presence and awareness while sharing yourself authentically about what you are learning on your path is important. Because yes, it might throw them into a cognitive dissonance, but if you're doing it from a loving place, then you're also increasing their awareness, which in return will increase their capacity to move through these different layers within themselves and to see their own conditioning. And so everything is it's very chaotic when you look at it, especially this, like for the feminine watching, like we understand this chaos is happening, but it's in ultimate divine order. And we want to prevent opposition from going in and killing monks, right? Very important that we remember that. What side are you on? And so we have to be careful about how we go about it. We have to be aware of the different levels that other people are at and try to assist where we can, be of service where we can, be compassionate about their process and where they're at. And I think we're going to really get somewhere. There's a lot of air energy in coming in. I guess, Aquarius is the water bear, but I feel that 11th house energy, like big time. And we're really moving into communication on a different level as we go into 2023. And I think that we're going to be able to finally make it to those next layers and overcome some of the confusion, as we come face to face with global ascension, because we have the individual ascension and then we have global ascension, and they are working together. So if anybody would like to contact me for a session, please do. You can reach me at inspiredandplayfulevolutions.com. There's so many things I want to share, but I will be back when the energy calls. I always wait until the bells ring and I get called to come forth with some information. So thank you for those that have reached out recently. I'm super grateful for the energies that I've been sharing in, and to have this discussion with all of the people tuning in. And I look forward to just watching the universe respond to all of this, because I think we're now at a place where we're making some really good headway in general, globally. A lot has been brought to the surface and it's going to continue, but we're also now gaining strength on the other side of it. So take care, be well, and stay strong.